Like, okay, let's go. So me
Okay,
and
let's
my
go.
little call for PDI. So to give you guys a quick rundown on John, so some of you might know him, some of you might not know him, but this is like the Drew Frank of PDI. This is the Michael Jordan of PDI. This guy is the GOAT. I started working last summer with John. He's a fire guy. Honestly, when I would check in for a demo, I'd be like, okay. But John always had me smiling ear to ear. John has sold $43,000 of Cutco up until this point. Last summer with Jacob, they did over $415,000 in new business. And John has launched and worked with over 80 representatives. And that's why he's so qualified and so knowledgeable on this topic. And we were just chatting up about this acronym SEED. John, can you go over what SEED is again and then take it away from there, please?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thanks for that introduction. That was awesome. That's
Yeah.
so kind, Sandy. But yeah, SEED, for when you're doing PDI, SEED is a great acronym for the four main things you got to hit on PDI. The C stands for connect. You start by building rapport. In life and business, relationships matter, and the quality of your interpersonal communication impacts your relationships. And so, if you have good rapport with somebody, it's going to impact the relationship more positively. You don't want to have a transactional relationship with your reps. The next letter is E, excite. You want to pump up your reps. A lot of the morning PDI is actually waking up your reps. So when I pump up my reps, whenever I'm answering the phone, I just let that energy, my energy, come through the phone. Like, that sales is a transfer of energy. So you want to like sell your energy to your rep, transfer your energy to your rep. So that's excite. The second E is events. So whenever you're doing PDI, you want to make sure that your reps know which events are coming up in the office schedule. So that's like team meetings and champs club. And you need to mention these events in such a matter of fact way that it's like the assumption is that they're going to be there. You create value in these events and use social proof to motivate them. Like you talk to your reps, hey, who are your reps' friends in training, letting them know that they're going to be at Champs Club. The best performers in your office, they're always at Champs Club. So using social proof to get them to the events. And then D, demos. That's the last part. This should be short and sweet. So when I'm talking about like morning PDI, when you're checking in with demos, it should be like systematic. You should have them go through their next 3 days of their schedule and let them tell you how many demo slots they have available and how they have booked up. So it would basically be like, okay, run me through your Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What's your goal? How many you have booked up? And you can track that through the app as well. And then make sure to have them hop on the phones after you're done with PDI with them if they haven't booked up all of their goals yet. If it's a good phone time that you've checked in. So like in the mornings, that's a great phone time. That's when you want them to hop on the calls right after you get them done with PDI. And that's why it's so important to excite them during PDI to transfer that onto the phones then. So that's seed. Seed is really going to cover a lot of what you need to know for PDI. As long as you hit those four things, connect, excite, events, demos. That's PDI really summed up. So now I'm going to go into Xander sent me a couple questions a little bit about PDI with reps. So I'm going to start by talking about how to get a rep to a sale after a no sale or a string of no sales. So if a rep isn't making sales, it is usually either because they are A, not seeing HM30s, or B, not sold themselves on Cutco. That means that they think it's too expensive or just not sold themselves. So one, if they're not seeing HM30s, if basically if they're not having sales, you need to ask them who their customers are and who they're seeing. A lot of the time, it's just going to be because they aren't seeing HM30s. So you're just going to have to remind them why we see HM30s. The
Mm.
other half is not seeing the value in Cutco. And the way that you can get them to there is you need to build up their own product conviction. So like enthusiasm, IASM, I am sold myself. So you need to ask them if they're sold themselves by giving them the confidence by saying, hey, do you think like if you had Cutco, would you have it for the rest of your life? Like, of course, they're going to say yes. So you need to get them to sell themselves on it and then get them to transfer that to their customers. So telling stories really helps with that. I tell lots of stories about my own experience with Cutco, having it in the house growing up, and that's one way to transfer enthusiasm. And then also keep it simple and don't overteach on PDI. So this is a really big one that I struggled with a little bit when I was getting started on PDI. I just wanted to like solve all of my reps problems at once. But PDI, you just need to keep it simple and stick to the basics, which are really just smile, read your scripts, and make sure you're cutting food on your appointments, and make sure to get them to Champs Club as well. But on PDI, remember to keep it simple and not try to over teach big concepts. That's what team meetings and champs clubs are for. That's why it's so important to get them to those events on your PDI. It's not so much as important to like be teaching them these like the 3 set close. Like you don't want to be teaching them concepts like that over PDI.
Mm.
All right. So some best questions to be asking during morning PDI. Now, morning PDI was always my favorite type of PDI. It just in the morning, it's a great way to get the day started, checking in with all of your reps. And if you have a really strong attitude about this, it really impacts your office as well. For me personally, like I was never sitting down doing PDI. Like I was always walking around. I needed to be moving and energetic. That might not be true for everyone, but just knowing that like your emotional state is really important for PDI, and you need to be in like an energetic, like happy state when you're going to be making these calls because you can hear that over the phone. And if your reps are picking up in the morning, they're going to be groggy and tired. They need to hear your energy. So my number one goal on morning PDI is always to get them to laugh. And that can be on just about anything. Like I always like to joke about food. I think that's such a easy thing for like people our age to joke about. I always I Here's one thing, you can be a little out of pocket with your reps on the phone in the morning. You can, if you have that relationship, it's okay to be jokey. And when I say that, I mean to be like goofy and unexpected out of pocket. Don't be saying anything like super inappropriate or rude to these reps. But show them that you're a fun person and you're able to joke around because they want to work with fun people. So the other thing that I think is super important is to show them that you care for their well-being. So like one thing that I would always ask my reps in on morning PDI, have you eaten yet? What have you had for breakfast? You can chop it up about what they had for breakfast. Or one joke that I like to say is like, have you had your 8 cups of water yet for the day? Like, of course they haven't yet, but you're just kind of showing that you care about them. Just that mentality is super important. Now, when you're asking reps about them, ask them about what excites them. Use that to motivate them and to vision paint as well. It's really important to get to know your reps well. And the better you get to know your reps, the better you can work with them. And one of the ways to do that is to meet them at where they're at. So like show an interest in their interests. Here's a big one. Music. Music was always a big one for me. I would always like to ask my reps who they're listening to. That way I could connect to them and their music tastes, but also just to remember that, like when you have another conversation with a rep and you bring up again that you remember like what artist they recommended to you, it shows that you care. I also get a lot of great music recommendations from that, so that's super fun too. But yeah, just showing an interest in them is super important. So before a demo, when you're calling a rep for PDI right before a demo, it should be short and sweet. Those calls like shouldn't be 5 minutes long. They should be like even less than a minute sometimes, a minute or two. Before the demo, pump them up and get that energy up. One of the reasons I ask about like what music reps like is because I always recommend that they listen to their favorite artist before they do a demo. It just puts them in the right emotional state. So I like to ask them, what song are you going to be listening to before your demo? And then if I remember what artist they like and I recommend that, that just shows the relationship. One joke that I'll say sometimes is like, how many jumping jacks are you going to do before this demo? Are you going to do 35? Do you think you could get to 50? Just joking about like something like that. But to get them moving, get their body moving, that's something I always try to get them doing before they're doing demos. Here's a really big question that I like to use asking a rep a question to get their confidence up. I'll say, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you that you're going to sell? Sometimes they'll say like, okay, I'm feeling like a 6. And I'll be like, why didn't you say lower? You said a 6. Why didn't you say like a 4 or a 3? And they'll be like, well, I mean, it's a couple and they have kids and I think they like to cook. And right there, they're selling themselves. And you just let them do that. And when you're like, okay, it sounds like you're a lot more confident into the 6. That's just one question I like to ask them sometimes. One thing that I like to do is I like to have reps describe who their customer is that they're going to be seeing, their relationship with them. And then I like to connect to a personal story if that's applicable. So, like, say a rep is like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be seeing this lady from my church." Social proof is such a big thing. I saw like half of my church, and I was like, whenever I do demos with church ladies, I love it. They always buy from me. They have so much fun. They're the sweetest people to talk to. When you ask your rep about who they're gonna see, the customer or the relationship, you can use stories to kind of influence them or just support them like that. And then one thing that I always like to recommend for reps, usually when reps are getting started, one of the things that they might struggle with a little bit is rapport, not building as much rapport. And I've always noticed that the more rapport I build on a demo, the better the demo goes. And so I always like to give, sometimes I like to give my reps some sauce for like building rapport. So one question that I always recommend reps ask is, as I say, well, I start by saying, can I give you some advice? And the rep is always like, yeah, I'd love to. And I say, ask your customer, what words of wisdom would they give themselves if they were in your shoes? And so I think that's such an important question for reps to ask their customers, just because it's a really good rapport builder. But that's just an example of a good question for building rapport. I'm getting a little off topic from PDI. Let me get back. Okay.
You're good, bro.
After
I love it.
after a demo, so now we're going to transition to talking a little bit about after a demo PDI. I always like to ask after a demo, did you have fun? The best reps have fun on their demos. And if you can get them to enjoy their demos, they're going to keep doing them. Like this job should be fun. And if they're having fun on their demos, they're going to sell more and they're going to continue to be in the business, in the office. They're going to keep getting that enthusiasm. So if they have a no sale, ask them about reps. Ask them about how many recs they got. Sorry. And then also a really big thing to do after a demo is to encourage them to make 5 calls after each demo. Now, it's really easy to recommend doing this after a sale, especially because they'll have that energy and that confidence from just closing a sale. And you can be like, hey, how easy was it to just sell that homemaker? Now that you've sold one homemaker, do you think it's going to be that much harder to sell another one? No, no, it's going to be so much easier. You never know who that next homemaker is going to go to. Make those 5 calls and just replace the demo. So always encouraging them to make calls after doing demos. That's big for post demo PDI. And then don't discourage no sales. Don't discourage no sales. Nobody wants to feel bad about having a no sale. Reps already feel bad about having no sales. So I like to kind of like invert that. When reps have a no sale, I tell them how excited I am for them. Like, wow, looks like you got your no sale out of the way. Really excited for your next demo. What do we always say? Our best demos come after our worst demos. And so I'm glad that you got that no sale out of the way. Now your next sale is going to be a sale. So don't discourage no sales, but don't normalize them either, because that leads to complacency. So don't normalize no sales, but don't discourage them either. Um, and then I'm just going to talk a little bit about like personal PDI philosophy. So this is something that I'm sure you've heard before, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so show your reps that you care. Take notes on them, learn about what their interests are, and they're not going to listen to you or trust you until that you can prove that you one care about them and two you know a thing or two. So like as somebody who is going into management, like you have some ethos, but you need to show that ethos as well. And the best way to show that ethos is by selling. So I think that if you're doing PDI, it should be like you need to be selling if you're going to be doing PDI, because it's going to give you the experience of like obviously selling, but it makes you relatable to your reps. My strongest PDI happened when I was like in SC2 or like in the midst of a selling period, because I could relate to my reps directly, talking about like, oh, I have my demos and you have your demos, and like we're on the same, like we're both doing demos, and when they see that I'm doing demos too, my advice means that much more to them, especially when I'm selling on them. So selling is super important while you're doing PDI. Also, the more stories that you can tell that relate to giving tips about selling Cutco, those comes from selling. So that's the more to build up your ethos. Have fun too. Like like I said before, if your reps are having fun, they're going to enjoy the job. If you're having fun, you're going to enjoy the job. So make sure you're having fun doing PDI. And the last thing is just to be confident. Remember who you are. You're the manager. Don't be afraid to tell your reps what they need to hear to succeed because you've been doing this job. You know what reps need to do to succeed. Don't be afraid to tell them what they need to hear. Sometimes it takes a little bit of tough love to get them there, and you're their manager. So it's okay to be a little strict with your reps sometimes, as long as you're coming from the place of, listen, I'm going to do my best to elevate you and make sure that you can be as successful as you're meant to be. So those are all my general kind of tips on PDI. I know that was kind of a stream of consciousness. I hope you were able to take away some helpful notes from this. But if you have any questions, Xander, or any notes that you wanted me to like explain a little bit more about?
All right, let me go through everything really quick. Because I took some great notes because you just spat some heat at me. Very appreciative for it. Um, and the Zoom is 40 minutes long, so we started at 17, so we'll have 57. So we got 17 more minutes here. Okay, fire. It's perfect amount of time. I'm just gonna read over and talk out loud. Seed is awesome. I never heard that.
Yeah.
The connect, excite, events, demos, and I feel like we kind like briefly know that about PDI, like right, like build like rapport and like rapport plus certainty equals influence, but I never like knew the flat out like acronym. Like, hey, like there's something for this. So that was awesome. And how to get her up to a sale. So that was probably my biggest thing because I've been taking some like PDI calls. I haven't done any morning PDI yet, so I'm kind of excited for that. But it's really just been like demo PDI, like, hey, how you feeling? Like, what food do you have? Oh, I got a pineapple. You got a pineapple? You know, stuff like that. But but I've recently been experiencing like reps get continuous no sales, and I hear that some people say like if they go like let's say like over 5, like we need to stop everything that we're doing right now and like have like a check-in, like hey, like do like a minute each on like your goal sharing, blah 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 blah. So I haven't done that yet, but Jacob was giving me some advice on that. So I'm excited to start implementing that. If and when I'll need that over the summer. But I like how you simplified it into like it's usually just A or B. A being they're just not showing HM30s. Just straight up like, oh well, dude, like that's why you aren't selling, man. You're selling it to your frat, bro, right? Like,
Yep. Yep.
or B, they haven't sold themselves on it yet, too.
There is one more that might be it, and the
Yeah.
last one could be that they're not reading the script. That could be the last one, that they're maybe not reading the script. But yeah, that's basically the number two, the top two or top three ones.
So I have a question for you now.
Yeah, for sure.
Reading script. So with the not sold themselves and they don't have the conviction in the product, how do you like find out that they don't have the conviction? Or like how do you know that they don't have that certain?
You just ask them, honestly. Like you just ask them about like how much they like, ask them if they love Cutco, ask them if they would use Cutco for the rest of their lives. And also ask them what they love about Cutco. Like if you ask them what they love about Cutco and they can't come up with at least like five or six things, like they don't know enough about it to really like, yeah. So I would say having them use Cutco more and using it on the right things. So just making sure that like they've they've done the demonstration where they try to like cut the rope with a crappy knife and then with a Cutco one. So like using the product a lot will build conviction. So making sure that they're using it and then using it in the right way. And then also asking them about what they love about it as well. So that's a good way to kind of see how convicted they are in the product as well.
Okay, got it. Got it. So what do you love about Coco? And they should be able to give you like a quick like boom, 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 like
Yeah,
guaranteed
yeah.
handles. Okay, cool. And then using Cutco more too. Okay. Um, and then don't overteach, kiss, keep it simple, stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I like how you said too to not overteach because like for instance the three set close like there's stuff for that at team meeting,
Right,
stuff for
exactly.
that at Champs Club. I never thought of that, so I appreciate that a lot. And I think that was something before, like in like the winter time, that I think I would try and like solve everyone's problems, like
Right.
just like a natural people pleaser, like, oh, you fell down, you have a no set, let me fix everything. But like just keeping it super simple, brief, like super confident, you got like, whatever, just very positive. But to not just overteach because it's like overwhelming, but also because there's a time and
Right.
place for it. Like you'll eventually get taught the two set close, but I'm not gonna do it on a PDI call at 7 in the morning.
Odds are reps aren't gonna have their notebook and pen out when you're doing PDI with them. So like even if you are like giving them the fire and teaching them really, really good stuff, they're probably not gonna remember it, and it can be a little overwhelming to them too.
Mm.
So yeah, just keeping it simple is super important,
Okay.
and getting them to those events. Yeah, yeah.
And then the second thing I wrote down was the best questions to ask and having a strong attitude and a happy state. I love that. And when I reflect and then when I think of when Jacob calls me, like it's always or every time I call Jacob, like Xander, like it's always super upbeat. And I'm like, dude, it's so early. Like I just woke up. I'm like, how are you so happy? But like I could give him whatever energy, like I'm tired. But after the phone call, I'm up, I'm wired, I'm dialed for the day. Like I'm like, bet I'm about to have a good day at school. So it just shows like some social proof that it's true. Like it works. It's very effective.
Yep.
And
Sales is a transfer of energy. Totally. That's a
mm,
big thing right there. Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. Remember that sales is a transfer of energy.
Transfer of energy. And I like how you had to a goal that your like main goal was to make them
Oh,
laugh.
totally.
That's sick. And just showing that you care because people don't know how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And have you eaten yet? It's like what'd you eat for breakfast? What excites you? So like do you have like any other like silly jokes that like you'll try and crack to like get them to smile or to laugh on the phone?
I ask them about like what they've been up to, and make jokes about that. A lot of it is just kind of being improvisational, and doing the best to just have a fun attitude going into it. But yeah, just building that connection with them because here's the thing, you want them to be like you want them to enjoy having that phone call with you. If they enjoy talking to you, like they're gonna keep talking to you and they're not gonna avoid your calls. So yeah, just that's why it's super important to just be friendly and like fun on the phone because you want them to enjoy talking to you. I always try to like give a little bit of value or just make them feel a little bit better. Give them a reason to pick up the phone, basically. A reason that isn't like they have to because it's their job.
Mm.
Yeah.
So with that too, so with PDI morning PDI, um we are calling them typically, right? Like it's
Yes.
not like okay, because I'm
Morning PDI. Morning PDI happens between like I think it's 7:30 and 9. I mean, we tell the reps that they're supposed to call us, but the top reps will, but a lot of the time, morning PDIs, you're going to be waking people up. And that's why having that energy is so important in the morning.
mm,
Um, and yeah, you're going to be dealing with some people that are going to be groggy in the morning and they're going to have short answers and you just got to be persistent and that's okay. It's like, I think back to, oh man, there was a rep that I would call every morning. I won't name names, but they just had no energy on the phone. And I kept trying to figure out what is this thing I'm going to connect with them about. And I finally got it, and it was scary movies or something. But like whenever I started talking to them about scary movies or if they'd seen one recently, like like their voice would light up and I could tell like, okay, that's what I'm connecting with them. So sometimes it takes a minute to find it. And it's just about asking better questions. So just when you have good questions and you're able to ask good questions about them and their interests and whatnot, that's what leads to discovering what the spark is for them that they want to talk about or that they'll enjoy talking to you about or telling you about. I love learning from reps. Like all of the people that we work with are really interesting people, and really motivated, hardworking people. And so a lot of them have interests that I don't know that much about. And so I'll let them teach me too. I'll let them give me some information. And it's fun to teach somebody something. It's fun to tell somebody something that you're passionate about. So getting people to talk about the things that they're passionate about, I would say right there, that's a big key. If you can figure out what they're passionate about and have them tell you about it, talk to you about it, talk to you about why they're passionate about that, that's it. Find your why right there. And when you know somebody's why, like, oh my goodness, it makes coaching them so much easier too. Um, yeah. I was recently reading something by Simon Sinek, who's a motivational speaker. His whole thing is about what's your why, and start with why. And it's really, really important. That's like what motivates people, their why. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, we always talk about it on like a demo or just like building rapport is finding someone's hot button, like something like they could just talk about for hours on end too. But also I like how you just said their why. Like for instance, like my hot button for me is like I want to make 15 grand in the summer. It's like awesome, like that's sick, but why do you want to make that money? Right? It's like, do you want to go away for school? Do you want to pay off school? Do you want to study abroad, real estate? You know, like I feel like there's so many different avenues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like you. I really like how you just had a layer one and then you went even deeper with layer two and the why.
Right there. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
huge.
nice. And then PDI, pre-demo, short and sweet. And then if you can find out their like favorite artists, like oh, like Blast Post Malone in the car right now, you get super how many jumping jacks are you gonna do? 35? Can you get to 50? Um, scale 1 to 10. Oh, this was fire. This was insane. Scale 1 to 10. How confident are you that you're gonna sell? Why not lower? How, bro, that was a
That,
curveball and I swang. Like I was like, I swang. Um, and then they sold themselves. That's
yep.
awesome. We like you didn't have to sell them on on anything. You didn't have to build up their confidence. They built it up for them. That's awesome. I feel like that's a true surgical like leader, like a true surgical manager. Like,
That's what leadership is all about. Leadership is inspiring people to accomplish their own goals. Like, yeah,
hmm,
no, that's huge. Great pickup there.
I'm gonna jot that down real quick. Leadership is inspiring people to hit own goals. That's awesome. Social proof and stories is always huge. Facts tell, stories sell. Um, with who they're about to see too. Like, oh my gosh, like I love church ladies. Um, giving them some sauce too. Asking the customer some words of wisdom. Okay, sweet. But on my last page here, John, we got about 5 minutes here, so we'll wrap up shortly. Post demo, did you have fun? I like that one a lot, how you said that, because like it's not obviously like our job is to help them hit their goals and like get the demos to either just build their confidence in themselves or make money, etc. But I think the fun aspect is huge. And you even said like we should have fun too on PDI, right?
Totally,
Like and
totally.
the more fun we'll have, like they'll have also and like they'll want to pick up that call, right? Or like they'll be expecting that call and they're like, bet like John's calling me, bet Xander's calling me, like awesome. And they'll stay longer too, right? And how many recs, awesome. Encourage the 5 calls after demo to replace the demo that they just had to. I remember Michaela would always talk about 5 calls before and after every demo to replace the one that she just did. Um, and then that's what I wanted to finish my sentence. Don't discourage a no sale. Best come after them, but don't normalize them, right? Don't be like, yeah, like this is normal. Because we don't sell just the ultimate set, right? Like we don't sell just the signature set.
Exactly, exactly.
Like people and even if you don't want knives, like I got 3 sets of Wusthof sets, and like I don't need that. But but my pots and pans suck though. Or like I love to garden. Like yeah, it's a trillion stuff. Like something for everything, for everyone. And then your philosophy too, taking notes. I recently started taking more notes when I'm on the phone with Jacob, just to like jot down everything and just all the value, boom, 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 boom. but also to reverse it, not just when I'm calling my manager, but when I'm calling my reps, I can take more notes on them. And I think that will help me learn more about them too. And how you were saying, like, it's cool to learn from your reps, right? And like they'll like teach you something or talk about what they're passionate about. And I think when you write it down on paper, it's gonna stick better with you too. And just showing that you care for them a lot. And you also said that your PDI was strongest when you were selling too.
Yes. Yes.
So, I want to touch on that. So, Jacob and I briefly talk about like selling over the summertime, and I feel like it's like the outline right now is like focus on the office. Like if you want to do demos, like you can like on the days off, but like obviously like take time for you. But like the main thing is gonna be SE2. So like let's say like I don't sell over the summer, but only through SE2 or maybe like that big push period, like 2 or 3 weeks. For the rest of the summer, how else can I be strong on PDI even if I'm not necessarily selling?
Part of the reason that I say that it's so important to sell while you're doing this is because when you're doing an office and when you're in an AM role, like you're gonna make money off of your personal sales. You're gonna make a little bit off the office, but really, like you're gonna be making money off of your personal sales. And for me, it was always just it made me feel it made me feel like it's more of a personal thing. It just made me feel like I was also making money while I was helping people make money too. It was really important to me because you will make some money off of the office, but really, if you're gonna be doing this as like a full-time job, selling too is super important to make the income worth it. But the other reason that selling is important is just because it keeps you in rhythm. I'm not saying that you have to be selling while you're doing PDI. It's not a necessity. But just like have sold recently ish. So like for me, I would sell only over the summers and winter breaks. And so when I and like only during SC2 over the summer too. So like when I came back for the summer, I hadn't really been doing presentations for a while. And so I wasn't as locked into like what that's like in the constant like doing the presentation. So if not selling yourself consistently while you're doing PDI, just making sure that like you've been selling recently, just so you're still more in touch with what that's like.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I
I see
agree,
we got
and it
one
makes
minute left. I can hop back on if you need to talk anymore or like how do you want to do this? Do you want to wrap this up or
yeah, here. I'm gonna end the recording right here, and then I think we can do some other stuff. But man, guys, this was some heat. This was some heat from John. I'm gonna pause the recording right now, but thank you, John, for all the heat. Quick little deuces.